Welcome to the San Ramon Valley Unified School District's Board of Education meeting. We want to let the public know that we are video recording this meeting, and the recording is being live streamed on the district's YouTube channel. So first I'll call this meeting to order. Next, I want to welcome our new superintendent, CJ Comet. Thank you so much for being here. We're very excited. We appreciate you being here. We're excited for the next chapter in SRVUSD. So welcome to the dais.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here and very excited to get into our first meeting.
Great. So next we'll take attendance. Unfortunately, student board member Travis Hodges is in Washington, DC. So he's got big, big things going on there. So he's unable to be here today, but he'll be at the next meeting. And we'll take attendance starting with Rachel.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Rachel Hurd and I represent Trustee Area 5.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jesse Van Zee, and I represent Trustee in Area 1.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. I'm Susanna Ordway, and I represent Area 4.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Shelley Clark. I represent Area 2.
And I'm Laura Bratt. Good evening. Welcome back to the start of the pseudo start, a little break for the academic year. I represent Area 3. So next we'll do Pledge of Allegiance. So if we could all rise. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so next we'll report out actions taken in closed session. So at this evening's closed session, the board made the following appointments in a 5-0 vote. Kim Murray will be the assistant principal at San Ramon Valley High School effective July 29th, 2024. Andrea Colloway will be the assistant principal at Diablo Vista Middle School effective July 24th, 2024. That I believe is tomorrow. Stephanie Davenport will be the assistant principal at Gale Ranch Middle School and Windermere Middle School effective July 24th, 2024. Can I get an acceptance of our minutes? This one's for June 18th special board meeting. We have two.
I move acceptance of the June 18th minutes.
Second.
The motion was made by Board Member Clark and seconded by Board Member Ordway. Roll call vote. Board Member Hurd.
Aye.
Board Member Van Zee.
Aye.
Board Member Ordway.
Aye.
Board Member Clark.
Aye.
Board Member Bratt.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
Right, and that's to clarify, that was for the June 18th special board meeting. And now I need a motion to accept the minutes for the June 18th regular board meeting.
I move approval of the minutes from the June 18th regular meeting.
I'll second that.
The motion was made by Board Member Hurd and seconded by Board Member Van Zee. Roll call vote. Board Member Hurd.
Aye.
Board Member Van Zee.
Aye.
Board Member Ordway.
Aye.
Board Member Clark.
Aye.
Board Member Bratt.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
Right. Next, we move on to agenda approval. Can I get a motion to accept the agenda?
I'll move that approval.
I second.
The motion was made by Board Member Ordway and seconded by Board Member Clark. Roll call vote. Board Member Hurd.
Aye.
Board Member Van Zee.
Aye.
Board Member Ordway.
Aye.
Board Member Clark.
Aye.
Board Member Bratt.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
And on to the consent agenda approval. So consent items are considered routine in nature and are approved by combining them into a single vote. Only a member of the board may request that a consent item be removed from the consent agenda to be considered and voted on separately. The public may comment on a consent item before the board approves the consent agenda. And I want to make a note that we are pulling item 12.8, ratification of purchase orders, as the incorrect list was attached. This item will be brought to the August meeting. And then I would also like to pull item 12.9, consideration of approval of contracts purchases over 50,000 items. Two items are from the vendors EMC Research and Team Civics, which are related to the proposed renewal of the education parcel tax election, which we will be discussing after we would have approved the consent agenda. I will move. So item 12.9 will now be action item 10.5. Do we have any public comment for consent items? It doesn't look like it. No.
We're going to take
Are
what's
there
in the
any-
basket
can we
real
see?
quick,
Oh,
please.
yes, okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just need a sec. Okay, we have no public comment for consent, so can I get a motion to accept the revised consent agenda?
I move approval of consent as amended.
Second.
The motion was made by Board Member Hurd and seconded by Board Member Van Zee. Roll call vote. Board Member Hurd.
Aye.
Board Member Van Zee.
Aye.
Board Member Ordway.
Aye.
Board Member Clark.
Aye.
Board Member Brott.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
All right, great. As we start the new academic year, I just want to remind everyone again about how public comment works at our board meeting. So if you would like to make a comment during the meeting, you can find yellow speaker cards in the back there in the corner. And please speak to a staff member if you have any questions. You will have an opportunity to make a comment on agendized items when we come to that item. For comments on items not on the agenda, please submit your card at 9.1 public comment, which is actually, I think, our next agenda item. Public comment for non-agendized items. Each speaker has a time limit of 3 minutes with a timer shown on the screen while you are speaking. The time limit will be enforced to ensure fairness. Please be aware that we may interrupt you and redirect you to the correct time to speak if your comment relates to a different agendized item or if it is not within our jurisdiction of the school district. As president, I reserve the right to announce a last call for speaker card submissions. Please have your speaker card submitted when public comment begins for the agenda item you'd like to comment on. So that's after the report about it, but before we start public comment on that item. The district believes in an inclusive, welcoming, and safe environment during its meetings for all in our community. Please be mindful that students are in the room and watching virtually. They may not be in the room tonight because they're on summer break. We are all here to support them and to support their educational experience. And thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you being here and engaging with the school district and our educational community. So next we have reports to the board, and that is public comment for non-agendized items. I just explained this as well, but just so that you're aware, with non-agendized, because it isn't on the agenda, the board is unable to respond or answer any questions based on your comments. So that doesn't mean that we're not listening. That just means that we're not allowed to speak on it. And so now this will be our last call for non-agendized public comment. I know I have a few here, so let's see what I have. Let's start with Jessica Ozalp, sorry.
Ozalp. No worries.
I saw a P there, I'm sorry.
No problem at all.
After Jessica will be Mike Arata.
Okay. Good evening to our new superintendent and our board. This is the first time I've ever addressed the board. I've been a parent in the district for 3 years. My name is Jessica Ozalp. My daughter goes to DBHS. And I intentionally didn't allow myself to draft my comments ahead of time because I'm a school attorney and I have a tendency, right, to make it very formal, but I wanted to speak to you as a parent and avoid the temptation to give you legal advice. I know that you have great legal counsel. I'm here tonight to encourage you to speak to them and to take action to adopt updates to come into compliance with the new Title IX regulations. That's part of my daily work because I'm so passionate about it. That's what I do in my professional life. But as a parent and talking with other parents in the district, I know how important it is to protect equity for everybody in our schools, regardless of their sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, all of the things that fall under Title IX. I also know, just because I am a lawyer and I can't take that hat off, that a lot more things are going to fall under Title IX now. And the complaint processes all need to be overhauled in order to make sure that we're protecting our students and staff the way that we are supposed to under Title IX. I know that there are tons of news updates all the time about Title IX and injunctions around the country and in different states. I'm sure that your lawyers have told you that those don't apply here. So we do have to come into compliance by August 1, which is really coming up very fast. So I'm not privy to any of your communications, behind the scenes. Haven't heard the board talking about this, but I hope that it will be on your agenda soon. I'm glad that your adoption of a workplace violence prevention plan is on your agenda, and I know you're keeping up with those things. I am generally too busy to follow your meetings, but I'm going to be looking for this in particular because it is just so important for safety. And I've seen both as a community member and in my professional life, how many people are impacted by this every day and how important it is that people can feel free to come forward when they've experienced misconduct and have their allegations taken seriously and pursued to the proper outcome and resolution for ensuring safety. So thanks so much. Feel free to get in touch with me, but probably first talk to your lawyers. Take care.
Thank you, Jessica. Next up is Mike Arata, and after Mr. Arata is Christine Ritter.
AB 1955, enacted on July 15th, says that California public school personnel shall not be required to disclose any information related to a pupil's sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression to any other person without the pupil's consent unless otherwise required by state or federal law. Not being required to disclose is, of course, not the same thing as prohibiting disclosure. But four of you, along with your administrators and your teacher union LGBTQ caucus, will likely pretend that AB 1955 validates your existing policy of not permitting staff personnel to inform parents of seeming gender transitions at school, no matter how young the children involved. You'll continue hiding your individual gender support plans as this new legislation moves through court challenges. Meanwhile, sudden new gender claims remain likely due to harmful programs which your own staff members have characterized as queering the classroom, and including LGBTQ read-alouds, even for 4- and 5-year-olds in transition. These things will move that agenda along. As you know, a federal judge has already characterized school concealment of alleged gender transition as a trifecta of harm to the affected child, who needs parental guidance and possibly mental health intervention, to the parents who are deprived of their 14th Amendment rights, and to conscientious teachers who are forced to conceal information they see as critical to the welfare of their students. So concerned parents should assert their right to such disclosure under FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, including access to your secretive gender support plans involving their children, not yours. So concerned parents should assert their right to such disclosure every time that the issue comes up. Even your own parents' rights and responsibilities notice acknowledges FERPA, but with more such empty words, it also cites your policy 4219.24, which prohibits displaying or transmitting pornography to students. Your librarians, especially high school librarians, routinely violate that policy too. Their library collections include illustrated how-to manuals for sexual activity of all kinds, along with dozens of novels characterized widely as fantasy smut. Even as this vile, depraved porn has been exposed to the community here, your librarians and some classroom teachers have added more such filth in continuing violation of 4219.24. Effectively, your librarians, who are supposed to assist in the teaching and learning of knowledge and skills, have become porno pimps. So parents who haven't yet joined the SRVUSD exodus should closely monitor the lessons targeting their kids here, from library and classroom porn to overtly racist, so-called anti-racism, to crude Marxism in ethnic studies classes.
Thank you, Mr. Arata. Next up is Christine Ritter, and after Christine is Desiree Tice-Coulter.
Hi, my name is Christine Ritter, and I've lived in the San Ramon Valley Unified School District for a total of 34 years. My children attended our public schools, and I actually taught 8th grade at Pine Valley Middle School back in the year 2000 when no one could find a math or science teacher to save their soul. I tell you this to demonstrate my support for our public school system. Today, I'm representing the Danville Alamo Walnut Creek branch of the American Association of University Women, or AAUW. Founded in 1881, we are dedicated to advancing equity through research, education, and advocacy. We're nonpartisan and we oppose all forms of discrimination. My comments today represent the position of over 170,000 national members, over 9,500 of whom live in California. And of those, 315 belong to branches in our district, including the members you see in the audience here standing. So first, we want to welcome Mr. Comack as our new district superintendent, and we look forward to supporting you and your board. We are thankful and proud that our district is one of the best in California and a leader in the nation. And I'll just want to get in the record some of the accomplishments right up from the website. Received 67 national blue ribbon or state distinguished school distinctions in 10 years. In 2022, we earned the Distinguished School Awards, more Distinguished School Awards than any other district in the nation. We're consistently in the top 5% of performance measures. And we're even a lighthouse district among the entire nation. That is an incredible record. AAUW members believe strongly in high quality public education, and we believe it's the foundation of a democratic society and a key to improving economic prosperity and equity for all. And the entire AAUW national organization strongly supports protection from censorship and bias-free education. We are concerned about the recent attacks on our school board from groups repeatedly voicing grievances about books in school libraries. We respect the right for parents to opt out of content for their children. We also agree with the school board and with the elected representatives of the people of California that parents do not have the right to censor content for other people's children. The continued call for censorships of books with passages that some find objectionable is unproductive for our school board meetings. There's no lawful action that our school board can take to ban these books. We find the continued use of this tactic deeply disrespectful of our school board, our community, and our institutions of public education. In summary, we're here to support you at our local school board as you continue to lead us in our excellent public school system. We thank each of you for your tireless dedication, and we thank the wonderful leaders and the staff in our area and teachers who have created this resounding success for public education. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Next up is Desiree Tice-Kocher, and after Desiree is Cy Matin or Matin.
Hello. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on a topic in the recent news, and that is cell phone usage by children at school and its impact on learning and mental health. Tonight, I've brought some information, if anyone's interested, for the website that goes along with a recent best-selling book that you may or may not be aware about. This book discusses and provides academic references, news articles, and examples on the benefits of eliminating device usage during the entire academic day. These benefits include positive learning and mental health impacts, reducing cyberbullying and pornography for children, and it even provides example policies for schools to take on going phone free. I would ask the board to please take a look if you haven't already. My children are going into 5th and 8th grade in the district, and when I ask, I've been told that cell phones are not allowed at our schools. But from what I understand, this simply means that phones are not supposed to be used during class if a teacher is willing to police this. With this policy, teachers are put at the forefront of what every parent knows is a losing battle against a screen, providing fun, entertainment, and distraction. In this model, class time can simply become a waiting game until students can get back to their phones and get distracted again. As an individual, I can only do so much by refusing to provide my children with a cell phone at school. If other children have them, the distractions exist for everyone. This is, as Jonathan Hay points out in his book, a collective action problem that requires a community to come together and decide how they want to handle the situation for the good of the group. Let me be clear. I'm not asking for any kind of monitoring about what is on a student phone. And parents can decide for themselves to have their students using phones outside of school hours. But I would like to propose that our district take away the burden on teachers to police phones in pockets, students to resist their devices, and provide our entire district, K through 12, with an actual phone-free school day. to ease the anxiety of students having to deal with online life outside the classroom at the same time that they're trying to learn. This is not a small thing, but in our district's stated strategic directions, equity and social emotional well-being are conditions that support deep learning. Please consider that as you take on the question of how phones in schools are impacting our students and what we can do to provide the best school possible for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Desiree. Next up is Cy Matan, and after him is Kate Dorkren or Dirksen. Dirksen.
Good afternoon. Welcome our new superintendent. I've been here twice already. This is my third time. And the way I see the environment, I really like it. Looks like I may get a job to be doing like this more. But basically the issue is that I applied in March to become the substitute teacher in the district. And I have provided all the requirements and the fingerprints and everything. But everything has been, once everything was done, I was basically called and said that you are not in the running anymore and so on. And that was in April, in the early May. And since then, I've been struggling to prove myself that I haven't done anything wrong. And I have provided all the requirements and I should be getting a job. In fact, I should be getting the number one person to take this job because I have 2 master's degree and then a lot of experience. I have developed a passion for teaching recently or some time ago. And then I've been doing that in my technical jobs. I'm a telecom, basically engineer and professional for a long time. And I just don't see any reason for me to be denied. And I found recently after reading that compliance director report that she went to basically one of the HR staff member and she complained to her and they added so many things. I don't know she added or the original person added. They added all these accusations against me, which is untrue completely. I responded to everybody and I copied all the board members of new superintendent and been in communication with Ms. Jones. So I am here basically to ask for fairness, to look at it. You know, Ms. Van der Star had an issue. I mean, the same employee had apparently reported something, complained about me. But Ms. Van der Star was very nice. She called me and then she went over the same story. And then I gave her all the information. There is an email that I copied everyone on that once she saw the facts, she apologized for me. And then she said, we will correct this issue. The same person have given all these wrong information and lies to compliance director. And unfortunately, our Ms. Jones is using that to deny my employment. And that is totally unfair. And that's why I'm here to say that. And then I asked our new superintendent to really emphasize the fairness and look at it and all the more board members.
Thank you, Cy.
Basically, so I get my job.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. And next up is Kate Dirksen.
Hi, nice to meet you. I am a parent at Green Valley. I have a 2nd grader and a kindergartner. I first wanted to express my support for Desiree's position around the phone ban. And I wanted to share a story to illuminate why I care about this issue so much. But my niece, who's 14 now, has had a nightmare of the last 2 years around bullying online and social media content that's extremely toxic. And it started because my sister actually didn't want her to have a phone, didn't want her to have access to social media, but without the parental collective action, it is truly difficult. The class chat moved over to Snapchat. Everyone's talking about videos on TikTok she hasn't seen. She's begging my sister, you know, you're killing me socially. I have to have access. So my sister did end up giving her access. And a couple things happened. I think in some ways it did help her connect with her good friends at school too. And she was on the class chat, which she liked. But bullying, which, you know, mean girls in middle school have been around forever, but behind screens, it really is a different beast. Some of the things that were said to her, you should kill yourself, like that language is being used all over the place. Stuff posted on social media. So this is just an issue that caused a really serious mental health crisis for my niece. And my family is really supportive and we continue to wrap it in love. But last summer, I had the opportunity to read the Surgeon General's report, among many other things. But I wanted to ask you all to take a look at that if you haven't had the chance to read it. It's called the Surgeon General report on social media and youth mental health. And the thing that sort of got me out of supporting this issue like a family member and into a school district meeting is that what's happening with my niece is happening to 30% of girls her age. And as I went deeper and I like nerded out and started actually calling the researchers and like really going deep to figure out, is this correlated? Was it causing it? Like, what is going on here as a society? And the more that I learned, the more activated I became to try to figure out how we can change some cultural norms here. And I'm not anti-tech, I work in tech. I think we need to create strong digital citizens. I read your technology plan. I thought it was extremely thoughtful and spirit aligned. And with the stats that continue to rise around bullying, hours on screen, the CDC just put out that kids over 11 are spending 9 hours a day on screens, not including school time. It's just really out of hand. And so I just wanted to ask on a future agenda, what more can we do to build parental collective action, to build digital wellness curriculum into the school, to continue to support this from all angles, including more mental health support? Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. All right, that wraps up our non-agendized public comment. So next we'll move to 9.2 Associate President's Report. Not sure who's here. Tammy, Carrie, or Laura? Anyone? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, good for them. It's still summer. All right. So, and then 9.3, Travis is also not here. So we will move on to 9.4 and Superintendent CJ Comac's first superintendent report with SRVUSD.
Thank you so much. Being that it is July and we are incredibly busy preparing for the next school year, but there's less happening at our school sites. I think this will be a relatively short superintendent's report. I want to first thank the board for the honor and privilege that has been given to me to return to San Ramon Valley Unified School District to lead and serve as the superintendent and to work with the 5 of you. I also want to thank the staff and a number of community members that have reached out to extend a very warm welcome upon my return to the district. Last week, I did have a great visit to Cal High for the second session of summer school and got to visit Ms. Pike's class where I engaged in some incredible discussion with our students. And that certainly was a wonderful way to get recalibrated to where we are within the district. And as is probably known by many, but not all, we are in our meeting, retreat, and training season right now. So we had our operational meeting with principals and assistant principals on Monday. Today, we had our HR and special education trainings with principals and assistant principals, which did include some updated training around the changes in Title IX regulations. And tomorrow we will have our all management retreat, which really kicks off the 24-25 school year into full speed. And it has been a real pleasure to return to work with members of our community, to work with our principals. I'm excited to see our students back on campus, to work with our labor groups, and also really enjoy the opportunity to attend the State of the County address with Trustee Clark, who was there as well, with Candace Anderson, and got to meet some great people for networking within the San Ramon, Danville, Alamo, Blackhawk community. So great opportunity, and I am thrilled to be here.
Thank you, CJ. All right. I see that we have public comment. Is that's not for this item? Okay, so next we'll move on to action items, public hearing. So 10.1, public hearing regarding the proposed renewal of an education parcel tax election. I will gavel in the public hearing. And does the board have any questions at this point? No? Okay, we do have one public comment. And that, oh,
Stella, were you going to introduce this item though? Because there were some comments.
So I can introduce the 10.2 and we'll kind of do them both together because it is a resolution. So good evening.
So 10.1 or 10.2? I thought the
So
public hearing.
Public hearing. Yeah, the public hearing is regarding the consideration of putting a resolution on the ballot. The resolution is 10.2. So I can introduce the resolution now and talk about it a little bit.
Sure.
And then we can do the public hearing together.
Okay.
So I would like to start this evening first by clarifying some items in the resolution. We do have one little update. There's a comma that we need to add at the top of page 2. In the whereas clause at the top of page 2, there's a comma missing, and it should say, whereas homeowners age 65 and over, comma, individuals with disabilities, comma, and qualifying low-income people as described below. So the comma was missing in the third spot. I want to remind the board that we have some government code that was updated, and it was in the resolution that we brought last year to the board when we were preparing for the May election, that talks about the addition of the individuals with disabilities as an addition to the resolution. So there's new law, and there's confusing language in the resolution because these are all handled by the Social Security Administration. So you see SSI, SSDI, that language is all from Government Code 50079. And so we have in the resolution exactly the government code as it reads. One other thing that I would like to share with the board is that when we put an election on the ballot, one of the planning pieces that happens ahead of the decision for the board is to reach out to the registrar of voters and to have them give us an estimate of what it would cost the district as we build our budget. And this time, the county registrar of voters office estimated that the cost for the election would be somewhere between $2.50 and up to $4 per ballot. That is a mail-in ballot. So that's what the cost will be, because we are sharing that cost with other items that are on the ballot at the time. So with that, that's all I have to say to introduce this item.
okay, we can close public hearing, and then first we'll take Mike Arata's public comment, close public hearing, and then move on to 10.2. Okay, so Mike Arata, if you could come up, please.
Registered voter. Yes, per ballot.
It appears that your new parcel tax measure will exclude the sneaky inflation escalator you attempted to slip past the public in May, but other deficiencies remain. The district spending increases since renewing the existing parcel tax in 2015 exceed SRVUSD spending back then by $126 million, adjusted for both inflation increases and enrollment drops, i.e. 3,000 fewer students now than in 2015. You'd have plenty of money for announced purposes already, were you to be more responsible with existing resources. But SRVUSD always pleads poverty until it's time for the next unmerited pay raise. So you implemented a retroactive 8.5% raise in late 2022 and another retroactive 6% in February of this year, in both cases with a supposedly one-time 1% additional bonus. You once again claim no parcel tax funding for administrator salaries, but as you know, parcel tax dollars free up other general fund dollars for administrator increases. Meanwhile, you have cynically misled parents and other taxpayers regarding CASP test scores, comparing 2023 numbers only to 2022's already poor performance, instead of the substantially higher pre-COVID 2015 through 2019 numbers. Even your high achievement Asian family students were 5 points lower than before, but they still exceeded the next largest and next highest racial subset, white students, by 14.5 points in English and 23.5 points in math. Your decision to push measures E and F in a special May election, skipping March's primary, squandered something approximating an extra $1 million or more. Number 7, I've got these enumerated here and on the sign somewhat. As I said earlier, you hide from parents the supposed gender transitions of even the district's youngest children after they've been groomed by your Queering the Classroom programs and PRISM clubs. The extensive porn collections in your high school libraries and even now some classrooms further contaminate education here, violating your own policies. All of that, along with your overtly racist anti-racism programs and even Marxist indoctrination in the ethnic studies courses, all of that is occurring presently. Let's see, excuse me. It's badly compromising the teaching and learning of knowledge and skills, usurping the rights of parents, and grossly misusing taxpayer money as is. You've already spent another $104,000 on new push polling and a new tax-funded parcel tax promotional mailer. You'll soon turn things over to an ostensibly private campaign, but that funding will once again be provided primarily by tax-exempt PTAs and by your vendors of goods and services in what appears to be a shakedown kickback arrangement. Attentive and perceptive voters will once again reject your parcel tax scheme.
Thank you, Mr. Arata. All right, so I'm gonna close out of the public hearing and then we'll go back to 10.2 and have comments and discussion. Okay, all right, so hearing closed. And now we'll move to 10.2, consideration of adoption of resolution number 31/24/25 of the Board of Education of the San Ramon Valley Unified School District, County of Contra Costa, State of California, calling for an election for the renewal of an education parcel tax. So Stella, do you have anything else to add, or do you want to start with, can we start with questions from the board?
I do want to say one thing. There is a typo on the title of this because the title should say Resolution 31-2425.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? I know we've had this on the agenda a couple of times, but.
I think one of the questions that I had, and I know that last time I brought it up, we were still waiting on some information back from the county. Could we get an estimate as far as how much the initial measure ENF, what the cost of the district was?
So when we got the estimate for measures E and F, last year, we estimated between 950 and $1 million. We are waiting for the county to send us the final bill. They are waiting on one of their vendors to invoice them. So when that's finished, then they'll be able to provide us with a final tally.
Okay. Because and the reason why I bring that up is members from the public have asked, and so we wanted to, get that information out to them, especially as we're considering a new parcel tax. So I can understand that it sounds like it's somewhat out of our hands to get that final number, but we will. The other thing too that I don't know if we discussed yet is in this budget implications that you have listed here. That we talked it talks a little bit about the fact that we're also doing a trustee election at the same time, and there's going to be a cost either way. Can you talk a little bit more to that and what that means for the budget implication? Are we charged per measure that we put on or per election that we put on, or?
So we are charged for the real estate that we occupy on the ballot.
Okay.
So that's how the cost is calculated.
I was just referring to this line that says this may not be a significant increase to the budget as November 2024 is a trustee election. So I was just wondering what the nuance to that.
We do have to pay for the real estate that we occupy. So we have election for the trustees as well.
Okay.
That is on the ballot. So this is an add to it. We don't know how much
Does
paper we will be
Does it
utilizing.
come as a discount because we're already running anything? Can we negotiate something with the county?
I wish we could.
All right. I just didn't know what pointing that out on the
Yes.
on the agenda, what that amounted to. So we're anticipating somewhere between 220,000 and 400,000 for the entire. That's the budget. That's the total budget implication for estimate.
If there are 88,000 ballots that are mailed at $4 a ballot at the top end,
Yeah.
it's about $352,000.
Okay.
Well, will this parcel tax increase the tax burden on the property owners in our district
So
if it's approved?
the parcel tax is currently at $144 per parcel. If the community votes to renew this, the parcel tax will stay at $144 per parcel, beginning July 1, 2025 for 9 years.
Okay. And then if it does not pass, and I know we've talked about this before, but just to kind of clarify and put it in simple forms, what is the direct impact on our students in the classroom?
So the parcel tax currently funds approximately 48 classroom teachers. This was 23-24. And the parcel tax is written to fund salaries for positions. So if the parcel tax is not renewed, the district would have to identify reductions that will have to be made to make up those lost dollars.
Okay. And then to just to kind of speak to Mr. Arata's point, if let's assume, we don't want to assume this, but let's say that it does not pass and that we decide that then because those dollars have always paid for those 48 teachers, that we will then cut those, which I don't know if that would be what we would do, but let's just say that. Would that impact the number of administrators that we have on staff?
Well, it depends on what the board's direction is. The board could make a decision to
Right. Well, and it's not about our decision. It's about if you remove 48 teachers,
yes.
how does that affect the staffing ratio for administration? It's just to answer that question of, we're using these tax dollars to pay for teachers, and then that's opening up money to pay for more administration. But is that really the case? I know that's a little circled, but
No.
We staff our administration based on our school and our student needs.
right.
So losing those teachers, if that was what happened,
Right.
right,
Yes,
big if,
yeah.
it would mean higher class sizes. But I think everyone would have a really hard time with, okay, now this campus only has 3/4 of a principal or only one AP, or, we're already stretching our admin ratios further than most school districts do. I mean, people tend to think that public education is really fat in administration, and they're really not. And you look at the supervisory ratio of what number of people our principals manage, it's far greater than in the corporate world.
Thank you.
Well, and I think that's right. And Shelley and I attended the Master of Governance class where we were in a class with lots of different districts in state of California. And we had this exercise to see, within our class and most of California, and actually our district in terms of amount that we spend per administrator, administrator, we're like second to last. We're really lean. That's what we found.
Yes, and we were compared to many different school districts in the state of California, all different, some of the same as ours. And our cost, as Susanna said, for administration in this school district was at the very bottom. We were second to the bottom. So we are not overspending on our administrators or administration. Those are really important people who are highly qualified, highly educated, and are not easy to replace. I also want to remind people, because I've been in this district for 20 years. My kids are 11 and a half years apart. I've been in other parcel tax elections and worked on them. And the reason why we need that money, and the reason why we did a special election, is because historically we had a better chance of it passing. Now, in this case, that didn't happen. And there's been other times in the history of this district where it took more than one parcel tax election for it to pass. But I can assure you that we scrutinize regularly as does our CBO and other administrators in the district, where our money is going, how it's being spent, and that our major focus is the classroom and our students. So we really need to get this passed in order to be able to maintain, because we are one of the lowest funded districts in the state. And this money helps us with more personnel, and that affects our students in a positive way.
And if we don't pass the parcel tax this time, we still have declining enrollment, which means we don't get more money, right?
Less.
Or even as much as we did years before. So, yeah, we're gonna have to, yeah, it's going to be a very difficult struggle.
Yeah, and, oh, go ahead.
No, you go for it.
I was just going to reiterate, I think that, we're not just one of the lowest funded in the state, we are one of the lowest funded in the country. We're also one of the highest performing in the state and one of the highest performing in the country. And so $6.8 million in a budget of what, 450 million. It kind of feels a little bit like a drop in the bucket, but that's how stretched we are. That's how, I'm just going to use the word desperate. That's how desperate we are. This isn't pork. This is keeping a little bit more of the meat on the bone so that we can actually nurture our kids and our students so that they can have the education that we have been able to provide for them, and that we as a community want to continue to provide for them, for our kids. It's cost neutral to our community. It's not an additional tax burden. It's the same tax burden. There are exemptions for seniors. There are exemptions for low income families. This is our second shot, and it's sad, but it's necessary, and it's something we have to do. And we just need our community, especially our parents, our staff, everyone that understands and values the experience that our kids have in the classroom. We need everyone to come together and really push this forward and explain to the community how important it is for our kids. So.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, I think everybody knows our funding formula and how we're funded. It's an expensive place to live. We're high performing, and yet somehow we have one of the lowest funding mechanisms per student in the state. But that's kind of like, screaming into the dark and hoping that it changes. We can talk about that another day. It's not in our control. And this is absolutely something that I would reiterate as I look through the numbers and as I look through all these things. We are at such thin margins, it will be difficult. Stella, could you also talk to the reductions that we have? So even outside of parcel tax, we've already done a $10 million reduction plan. We've also proposed I'm going to quote it wrong, 16.5 million, or what's the exact number?
A minimum of 16.5 million.
Okay, wow.
And I wouldn't even call it proposed, Jesse, if I can
It's-
edit it.
Yeah.
It's what we based our budget on, was that we were
Proposing
committed to
what we
those
were going to
cuts.
cut that equaled 16.5. And then on top of this, it would be an additional 6.8 does it not pass. And so we are at increasingly thin margins as we go into this. And so I think that that's one of the things that somebody who has, as a trustee, fiducial responsibility to make sure that we keep our schools running and going. That's something that I'm considering as I look at these things.
One last thing I'd like to say, and that is that we need to keep in mind as a community that strong schools create global citizens who contribute to society, who come back and contribute to our communities. And those who don't have children in school right now, your property values in this area, our schools are we're a destination district. Your property values are based a lot, not wholly, but a lot on our schools. We want to keep them strong. We want to keep our students academically successful. We're concerned about their well-being, and we want to make sure that each one of them gets the tools they need to succeed as they leave us in this ever-changing world. And it's getting more difficult, and it's getting more expensive. And regardless of what everyone says about what it should look like, what the budget should look like, We're telling you, this is what it really looks like. And we take this very seriously, all of us. And we just want to make sure that we can take care of our students and that we can retain and attract qualified teachers. We have a teacher shortage we're dealing with, especially in special education. We cannot afford, and nor can our students afford, for this not to pass.
So one thing too, I just want to get some clarification because we've said a few things about it, which is while this funding does provide for salaries of 40, I think you said 48 teachers. If this were not to pass, I just don't want to cause undue fear out there by us saying these things. It doesn't mean that we have to axe 48 teachers. It means that we have to find the funding and defer that out of the budget.
Yes.
Should we choose to not separate from any teachers. So
That's
I just
correct.
wanted to clarify that that's not necessarily, I mean, it is a potential implication depending on how the rest of the board decides, but it's not a necessarily, I just don't want to cause undue fear in our teacher community by
Right.
that statement.
It's not a direct line.
Yeah.
And we have certain staffing ratios with regard to class size that are committed in contract. Initially, the additional positions provided by the parcel tax, I think at the last election was around 72. Stella, if you know that number,
Well,
jump.
when the parcel tax was originally passed, it funded nearly 100 teachers. And so this has been a number of years and now the buying power has reduced because of the increased
Which is
salary
why
benefits.
the last
and such.
attempt had the CPI in it. But I want to say in 2015, it was around 72.
Mhm.
But to show that how it dropped to like 52 just last spring, but now with this school year, the number is 48. Yes, that underscores that we have given our teachers, all our employees, some nice salary increases that they deserved and that we had to do to stay competitive. So to make that argument that we're overpaying everybody only lasts till like the next sentence when you're like, okay, so you don't pay your employees, they all go somewhere else because there's a teacher shortage, they can't. So,
Yeah.
so that direct line is other things would have to be cut. But you also get to a certain place where you're down to the bone and what else do you cut, right?
And I know it's like probably some people on the outside also think too about like, public institutions like public schools versus private corporations. This is happening in corporations as well. You're chasing after shortages of employees, you're giving bigger bonuses to attract, and it costs more money to retain and to attract new talent. And that's just that's the reality of the world that we live in right now.
We have also removed the Me Too from our assistant superintendent and superintendent's contracts. And what that means is that they are no longer connected to or necessarily get the same amounts as our union partners do. And that was something that I felt was needed to be changed in the way that we do business. And we were able to complete that this past year. They are also on a positive work year. And what that means is that normally people accrue vacation days, sometimes weeks and months if they don't take their vacation. And in the state of California, you have to pay out that vacation pay when they leave. So that's an unfunded liability that the district carries. So for our superintendent, our assistant superintendents, they're on a positive work year, which means that they work a certain number of days a year and the rest is up to them when they take their vacation, but there's no longer an accrued liability. So we are making steps to try to make the dollars go further because it's really, really important for us to try to focus on the classroom. And they were gracious enough to renegotiate their contracts, and that saved the district some serious dollars. So we're looking at everything to try to make this work. And we just need the community's help. That's what it comes down to. We're all in this together.
All right. Does anyone else have anything else they want to add, or do we want to make a motion to?
I'll move the approval for the adoption of the resolution 31/2425. Calling for an election for the renewal of the education parcel tax.
I will second.
The motion was made by Board Member Ordway and seconded by Board Member Clark. Roll call vote. Board Member Hurd.
Aye.
Board Member Vanzi.
Aye.
Board Member Ordway.
Aye.
Board Member Clark.
Aye.
Board Member Bratt.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
Can I ask one little question just about process? So now that this has been approved, what is the next step and how can the board be involved in that, in the process?
Thank you for asking. So the next step is the launch of the campaign. We will be filing the papers with the county, either at the end of this week or the beginning of next week. We have a few people who have to sign, the resolution, some of the elements in the packet. Those will be delivered to the ROV and will be assigned a campaign number or campaign letter. And the campaign will begin.
And there'll be a committee that will be formed?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, there will be a campaign committee, that will be formed.
All right, great. And this is
Trustees can be involved in the campaign on their own time.
good. Okay.
And it just means that we shouldn't take meeting time to discuss campaign issues.
Okay.
We can talk about facts related to the issue. We just can't do advocacy from the dais.
Okay, but we can do advocacy away from the dais. Okay, all right. And then I'm just gonna, no, maybe I can't do that, so never mind. Okay, so now we will move on to to 10.3. Thank you, Stella, and thank you to your team for all the hard work thus far. 10.3, consideration of a nomination and appointment of board members to Budget Advisory Committee, and that's back to you, Stella Kemp.
Yes, well, number 2, Act 2 tonight. The last time that I spoke with you in June during budget adoption, the board passed a resolution calling for the identification of at least $16.5 million in ongoing expenditures beginning with the 25-26 school year. As you know, we brought the 24-25 budget to you with $10 million identified as ongoing expenditure reductions. And as we look into 25-26, the school district will have to identify some ongoing reductions in order to ensure that we have a positive budget certification. So tonight, what I want to do is I'd like to provide you with an update regarding the planning, communication planning that we have, recruitment planning, the scope of the committee composition, and the timeline for this work that we'll be bringing back to you in January. To start with, I want to talk about the really sort of the overarching responsibility of this committee, and it is to identify reduced expenditures, but it could also include identifying potential revenue sources for the district. Some of those revenue sources may take some time to build out. And so what we'd like to do is we'd like for this committee to look at a couple of things, and that is the revenue reductions, the expenditure reductions, building a plan for a longer term budget stabilization to build some reserve for us so that we're not so reliant on cuts here and there every time we have some changes coming from state and federal government. The committee will have 3 charges. So they will serve as ambassadors to the community. And we are going to spend about 2.5 meetings training them on school financing from the state, federal, and local level. We are going to ask committee members to collaborate with each other and work with staff to support communication to our community, meaning going to different meetings and presenting information so that we're providing as much information to our community as possible regarding what's happening with the budget and why we are in the place that we're in. So this is an effort for us to build out this ambassador program. The second thing that the committee will be responsible for is developing a near-term plan in the form of a report for the $16.5 million minimum reductions, and also identify revenue enhancements and other cost savings or expenditure measures that we can implement in the 24-25, maybe now, and in 25-26, So this will come to you in January. In addition, the committee will be asked to identify long-term systems and program adjustments that will result in stabilization of the district's reserves and give us flexibility so we can respond to the uncertain revenue funding models. The committee will have representatives, and I anticipate the committee to be no larger between 15 and 18. It really depends on the number of individuals who apply. We will have our labor leaders who will receive a letter from me later this week, or actually a letter from CJ later this week. We're also opening it up to staff who may be interested. We will have a site administrator, and the superintendent and I will sit as well to support the committee. We will have community partners there. That includes our Ed Fund, our PTA, business owners, parents, former elected officials, a variety of folks from the community. We'd like to ask for 2 trustees to serve as liaisons on the committee, and then we will open this up to student board liaison and or student senate representative. So the committee is intended to be balanced. We will have approximately half of the committee represented from employees and approximately half from community partners, parents, and student leaders. Okay, so with that, we have an application process, and the application will go live later this week. We are working to launch our budget advisory website, which is nearly finished. We'll have the application in there, along with a communication plan that will invite the community to apply. We have some individuals that we will reach out to and ask them if they're interested, or if there are others that might be interested to serve on the committee. And the committee, oops, why is this is missing a slide? It's missing a slide. Okay, so there, let me go over how did that happen? That's weird. So I want to go over the committee timeline, and the committee basically has 6 phases, and we're in phase 1 right now. So phase 1 is the recruitment, which is happening in July and August. And then in August and September, we'll form the committee and train them. Then in September and October, the committee will go through a data analysis and receive information. And then in phase 4, which is October through January, they're going to develop the recommendations and their priorities. And then they will present the recommendations in January to the board. We're hoping the board will adopt the recommendations, and then we'll begin the implementation following the board meeting. So there are 8 meetings scheduled, plus some other maybe outreach opportunities to the community that we might ask the committee to assist with. So with that, I wanted to ask the board if they would like to talk about who might represent the board on this committee. And
Yeah.
oh, and can I say one more thing before we finish? This is a superintendent's committee, not a Brown Act committee. So it's a little bit different than like FOAC or POAC.
Right. Okay, and does anyone have any questions about the committee itself before I ask for nominations for liaisons?
No. She explained it pretty well.
Yeah, thank you. Does anyone want
I
to
wanted to make
volunteer?
a comment. If we have 2 board liaisons on this committee, can the other 3 board members attend the sessions where the education is happening? My reason for my question is it's been quite a while since we've had to do cuts like this. Goes back to before the recession of 2008 was when we last did major cuts, and then we lived through that for like 5 or 6 years. It is ugly. And I just think it's really important that all 5 of us thoroughly understand all the levers in the budget. And if having 2 people who are members of the committee then precludes the others of us just listening for the informative part, I think that's a concern.
Do you think that, well, so 2 questions, I guess. Is it legal? But then also, if it's not, is there an opportunity to record the trainings and have us watch it that way?
It would be my recommendation that we explore 2 things concurrently. One is the potential of recording the presentation on the education piece, why we look towards a legal opinion for that. I think the question being whether or not trustees can attend. For me, from my perspective, it's one of those really nuanced aspects of the Brown Act, because the Brown Act is pretty clear that in a community meeting, the board can be in attendance. But this is kind of a committee meeting. It's quite specific to what may be future board action, even though it won't be discussed in the educational part of that committee meeting. And I think that's what you're talking about, is really the foundational part of school funding. So I'd love to take a day or two and get the board a real clear legal opinion on that. And then at the same time, explore what we can do for the potential Zoom recording of that educational component in case legal counsel has a no answer, or in case trustees can't attend that meeting. Hopefully we can get a video recording of that and share it out. I have found that in other districts where we've done this work, that video recording has been also very helpful for members of the community who may not have the time and capacity to be on the Budget Advisory Committee, but would like to better understand the flawed system that is school funding in the state of California. It can be quite helpful. So
So I mean, in many regards, being able to record those presentations might even be a better solution, because they could be watched on whatever time. But I just feel it's so important for the 5 of us to understand the levers.
So we'll work as quickly as possible to get that legal opinion, and at the same time, we'll explore our recording capacity. I think we can find a solution to that regardless of the legal counsel opinion on that matter.
Thank you.
One other question, maybe this is a little too far in the future, but do we envision this to be workshopped by the board then after the committee has made the recommendations, or is that, would that not be part of that process?
You know, this is a very interesting question, because I was thinking about that just today. And I thought to myself, before they finalize report, maybe we would have a board workshop in December after they're kind of in the process of writing up the report, so the board can get a report from the chairperson. So one of the elements within the design of the committee is that the board will receive regular updates from the committee chairperson. And this might be a good opportunity for us in December to come forward and for the board to hear, you know, where they are, what they're thinking, so you're informed about it and not surprised by the report that comes in January.
And the report is still a recommendation, right?
It still is a recommendation, yes. And so we could either do a board workshop before you receive the report, or we could do one right after you receive the report.
Yeah, and I don't think that's anything to answer now. I think maybe as during the process. So. Okay.
Yeah, I think some of that may surface itself as we get down into the advisory committee meetings. And we certainly can update the board as we go through each meeting on where we are on the process and some points of discussion. And that may manifest its own determination about what kind of meeting cycle we want to engage in as we begin to discuss those recommendations from the committee.
Very good. Okay. Does anyone have any strong feelings?
I do.
Okay.
I would like to be on the committee.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else?
I'm willing to serve, and I think that I've got a good skill set for it, but I'd also be curious to hear if anybody else feels very strongly about serving.
Yeah, I mean, I, if I have opportunity to learn and to be a part of the process, and it sounds like I would without being on the committee, I think just in my seat as president and other things that are happening this fall, I think I would stand down from stepping up to that position.
That's how I feel too. I mean, I'm feeling like my plate is super full. And the thing that happens in November, I'm really committed to making sure that it comes to fruition.
So in that case, I'm happy to serve. If the rest of you
You
agree.
haven't said what you.
No, I feel it's the same, that I'm gonna really support our parcel tax and other projects, so I'm fine with. So just.
Well, I have other projects, but this is really important to me. Just maybe 1 or 2, but this is what I do in my company, so I feel like I have a skill set for it, and this is really an important issue, so I'm anxious to get started.
Okay, can I nominate Shelley Clark and Jesse Van Zee to be our representative, our liaisons to the Budget Advisory Committee?
I'll second.
We vote for ourselves.
Yeah.
The motion was made by,
Okay.
the motion was made by Board Member Hurd and seconded by Board Member Ordway. Roll call vote, Board Member Hurd.
Aye.
Board Member Van Zee.
Aye.
Board Member Ordway.
Aye.
Board Member Clark.
Aye.
Board Member Bratt.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Jesse and Shelley, for doing this. This is going to be very important and we appreciate it very much. All right, so next we'll move on to 10.4, consideration of adoption of the Workplace Violence Prevention Plan, the WVPP. And that will be Assistant Superintendent of Business Operations, Stella Kemp. I just thought you just left because I saw someone leave out of the corner of my eye.
We do look
Wow.
alike. I think this is Act 4 for tonight.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to share with the board that the district has prepared the Workplace Violence Prevention Plan, which was came out of Assemblymember Cortese's office in September 2023. Cal OSHA developed the process, and all workplaces in California, so all employers are required to have a workplace violence prevention plan in place effective July the 1st, 2024. School districts were scrambling to put this together because we didn't receive this information until late spring. And we formed a committee that worked through the template that was provided to us by Cal OSHA and have developed a process, and we're hoping that this plan will help launch this workplace violence prevention work that is required by the state. So the plan includes definitions of the workplace violence types. And as a reminder, they do apply to any employer in the state of California. So there's some language in there that might not look like it applies to school district because it applies to all employers. And the committee will be meeting quarterly to review the plan implementation, to review anything that has been submitted to the plan. It also includes duties and responsibilities of various administrators in the district and staff members who are supporting the implementation of the plan. Once the plan is adopted by the board, it will be placed on the intranet. It is an employee document. So we'll have that on the intranet, and then employees will be able to request copies of that. We have a training program that Melanie and Karen Dodd have been putting together for our employees, and they're receiving training as we launch this new school year. The plan will be brought back to you again next spring with any updates that we might have after 1 year of implementing it. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions?
I just want to say, what a feat to pull a committee together and to pull together a draft that quickly. I went because there was a link to the legislation, and I was reading through the legislation, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what a big, huge thing.
It was many hands make light work.
So thank you and your committee.
Can I ask a quick question? Just about the inspections of the school sites. Have the initial inspections already been done, or is that something that we had been doing anyway?
Yes, we have been doing those anyway.
Okay, so we have that baseline and.
Yes. Lots of the elements of the plan were actually in our school safety plans.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? No? Okay, and we do not have public comment. So, can I
Move
get,
approval of plan.
I'll second.
The motion was made by Board Member Hurd and seconded by Board Member Van Zee. Roll call vote, Board Member Hurd.
Aye.
Board Member Van Zee.
Aye.
Board Member Ordway.
Aye.
Board Member Clark.
Aye.
Board Member Bratt.
aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
I just wanted to echo, Rachel, thank you to Stella, to you, and to the entire team that was involved in putting this together, to Melanie and everyone. So thank you. All right, so next we'll move on to 10.5, consideration of approval of contracts purchases over $50,000. This is what was moved from consent agenda. So Stella, you are back up.
This is the encore.
Yes.
Okay. So you have questions about 2 items on the consent agenda for items over 50,000. The first one is the EMC research. And as always, whenever we have an election that we're planning for, we have a pollster that we hire to assess the readiness and of the community to identify what potential challenges we might have that we might have to face for an election. That's 58,400. That work has been completed. The second one is Team Civics. Team Civics is a consulting contract that the district has with an election planning firm. We've been working with them for many years. They've changed names a couple of times. And the amount that's in the contract actually is larger than what we anticipate needing, but we were prepared should we have to consider something after November. So we added a little bit of cushion in there for if, knock on wood, we don't have to go out in the spring, but in case we needed their services. So we do, the charge is based on a flat rate each month, $7,000. And right now we have bills in for a portion of May and all of June, and we'll get a portion of July. So since the board now has passed the resolution, it will pass over to the committee who will continue to work with Team Civics.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments?
There was one question that was raised a few meetings back by a community member, and I'm putting you on the spot, and this probably happened before your time, but I'm assuming there was some sort of RFP process that went about to get these vendors. That was a question that was raised.
Consulting contracts, you don't really have to
You
do
don't do
RFPs.
RFPs. Okay.
It's quite common to work with the same folks because
Over
they
and
know
over,
you,
yeah.
they've got your data,
So,
they have
yeah.
that history.
And change them if we see fit.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Any other comments or questions, or do we want to get a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the contracts over $50,000.
Second.
The motion was made by Board Member Clark and seconded by Board Member Ordway. Roll call vote. Board Member Hurd.
Aye.
Board Member Van Zee.
Aye.
Board Member Ordway.
Aye.
Board Member Clark.
Aye.
Board Member Bratt.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
Great, thank you. All right, so now we'll move on to administrative matters, and it's not even 7:30. It's summer, yay. So 10.3 administrative matters, or 13.0, 13.1, board member reports. Start with Rachel.
Well, I think we're all going to be at the retreat, the administrative retreat tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to that. It's always a highlight, kind of bring everybody back and get everybody charged up for the next year. So thank you in advance to Christine and her entire team for the planning involved in that. And I had one other little bit of good news that I got yesterday from CSBA, and that is that they accepted our workshop proposal that is titled Literacy for All, Aligning with the Science of Reading. And I want to thank Deanna Sapia for her help with writing the proposal. And we will be taking a team of 3 others plus me down to the conference, and we'll get our little thing. Ours is on Thursday morning at 9 a.m.
Yay, congratulations. That's
I'm
amazing.
excited.
Yes, congratulations to the entire team. It's information that I'm sure will be well received and is incredibly valuable. So,
All right, I'm up next. I'm looking forward to the admin retreat tomorrow as well too. Those are always a good kickoff to the school year meeting. And really only thing in between here and of our last board meeting of significance was attending the Capital Advisors state budget review, where we got to go through all the nitty-gritty details of how all the changes were made, the nuances to how the budget was formed that's ultimately going to impact our district. And it was an informative meeting. So that's it.
Ditto on looking for tomorrow morning. Just a couple of things. I had a chance actually, because I was curious because I've never actually visited a summer school class. So I reached out and thanks to Sycamore Valley Elementary Summer School principal Jamie Shackelford and her team, I got to visit their summer school, went into several different classes. And I mean, it felt like a regular scheduled class. Everyone was there. All the kids are happy. They were, doing projects. And so thank you for the summer school teachers and paras and everyone for supporting our students. And then I want to just to shout out to San Ramon Valley Education Foundation, because they've been offering the Imagineering classes for students and just our community, kids in our community, but they have a play production. So our, I think, theater teacher, and I believe theater, and I don't remember another, I think, teacher that has been teaching their drama class, and they're having a their summer production play this Thursday and Friday. I think it's the Addams Family, kind of modified version from the Addams Family movie or whatever. And so I'm planning on going, and I encourage everyone. Tickets are on their website, and yeah, like to support the students. So I just want to mention that. That's all for me.
So I too love the admin retreat. It's always so great to be able to get together and start the year off on a positive note with a lot of education, especially for us board members, because we don't always get to spend time with our administrators. So it's really, really beneficial. I, as Superintendent Kamick said, we both attended the State of the County by accident. I didn't know he was going to be there. He didn't know I was going to be there, but we were at the same table. So I got to introduce him to some really nice people, including Candace Anderson, who I really adore. And I serve on a county committee for her, so hence my being there, but also for the school district. She gave a lot of really great information about what's going on in every aspect of her region, and so it was really nice. I saw a lot of people that I hadn't seen in a while. So that's really it for me. I'm looking forward to starting the new school year.
So, and and Rachel, we attended a traffics meeting last week. And passes are available still for some routes. So if anyone is in a traffics route, we do have, I think, 2 new routes. So take a look, and you will, if you're in the route, you will have received information from traffic. So keep a lookout in your email. And we also approved a special rate for our first graders in SLIP programs. So our first grade SLIP is in not every elementary school, but it happens to be in every elementary school that is supported by traffics. And SLIP means that then those students, some start later and some end earlier, so that there's a period before, at the beginning and the end of the day, where there's half the students in the classroom for the teachers. So it kind of cuts down on class size. So we've provided an opportunity for those first grade students to only do one ride instead of paying for 2, but only being able to do one way. So that was exciting. And I think that, we talked about, the mission of supporting students, and that really fell into that with that cohort of students that needed to use traffics, but it wasn't really working for them financially. And then I also met with our new student board member, Travis. We met for coffee and had a great conversation about some of his goals for the year, and talking with him about how meetings work and ways that he can help to support that dynamic between, and that connection between our student body and our board. So I'm very excited for us to have him on the board, and he's going to do a great job. And I'm so, he's in DC, and then he's in Sacramento, and it's pretty impressive. So, and then I also am looking forward to the admin retreat tomorrow. So that's,
Can I add one more thing? Because I see our director of communications back there, Lana. I just want to remind everyone, Lana, correct me if I get anything wrong, that our 30 under 30, right? Application is open, and I think it closes on August 19th. So we want to recognize, right, our alumni. So encourage anyone who's what's that, who's age 30 this year, 2024, right? Like and who who's
Or-
an
or younger.
alumni of our school district to, to submit an application. We want to recognize you.
Yeah, 30 or under. I have a few names in back of my mind that I have to submit. There's so many impressive students, and so we want to make sure that they're acknowledged for sure and celebrated. All right, okay.